right.
Josh has been just like glowing since their Wyoming one.
I know. CBI champions. Can you believe it?
Yes.
I realize that I'm at a different tier than you are.
Hey man,
but
you got to win
just
whatever tournament you're in. That's all you can
take
do.
what
It's true.
I mean,
Seriously,
we
sorry.
spent many years in the desert.
Okay.
It's a high altitude.
Is there a problem,
Alex?
Your remote desktop isn't showing up.
It was before. Like I even scrolled and saw it.
You solved it?
What's our solution to this every time?
Well, I usually just change it.
Poke at it a bit.
Yeah.
Hammer.
I show
see ya.
0 connections on this, so I can restart my vMix.
But I guess you don't have an IP address sitting there, do you?
Save a
I
magnet.
mean, I definitely have an IP address.
No, he just.
What is your IP?
Starting.
Is your subnet?
Okay, now I see 1 connection.
That's
Now I see 0 connections.
Is it figuring it out? Maybe? Let's see
Yeah,
what
the-
they are.
You updated the creators edition right before the podcasting.
Heck no.
Is Jeremy a bit low? I don't know if that's just my
No,
monitor or
I
not.
still.
Low.
He
I think
sounds low.
sounds like Skype auto gained
He's
him.
so sad.
That's it every
Also
single time.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, he pushes 12 on
I still want to know why in the hell the MSI X370 X-Power Gaming Titanium is $330.
You sell a lot of things, and I
Titanium.
don't know what they meant.
They haven't been able to sell a high-end AMD motherboard in a while.
Yeah, it's
Trying
the
to make up
MSI
for lost time?
X370. It's their big, $330 for that.
That seems excessive, I'll say.
What does it have like a Crosshair doesn't, or the Taichi,
Tai Chi.
the ASRock
Yep.
Taichi?
Oh, they stole that brand name?
That was one of the AC units.
Yeah,
That
they do.
one.
Are you gonna do the thing with the box today, right there? Or?
You don't need to have a camera on it. I'm
Might
just
as well.
gonna hold it up. Hey, hand me that box.
Know what I'm saying?
I'm depressed I didn't continue doing that with Nooks.
I agree. All right, are we all here?
I don't know. Are we?
Woot Doctor makes a good point. $330 is a lot, but it's the only silver AM4 motherboard.
Ah.
No, it's
Can you
not.
really put a price
There's
on
one
that?
for $119.
Yes.
It's the MSI Gaming AMD Ryzen
Put that outside the table
B350.
for me, please.
That was the one
Yes.
Ryan reviewed.
Yeah, it's also silver.
Fine, it's
Mostly.
the only silver X370 board.
Yeah. I'd rather have a Taichi. Or that
love that
Gigabyte
bottle.
Aorus
You like this bottle opener?
5. That's a good one.
What's
The Predator.
That's pretty cool.
Now you need an alien.
I can't make the sound for
Predator.
Oh, ah.
you. That's not it. You have the song wrong.
I tried.
It's like a.
It's a rattlesnake slowed down. Secrets of movie making.
Is that actually what that is?
Foley magic.
No, but it sounds like it would be, wouldn't it? I'm pretty good at this.
I mean, it probably is.
Rattlesnake slow down would be more like a bag of sand being moved back and
I
forth.
can Google this. Hang on.
You're gonna find out.
Rattle. No, I just
No,
want to
no.
see what rattlesnake slowed down sounds like. Rattlesnake rattling in slow motion. 600. That's just gonna be video. I don't. Yeah, I get it.
600 FPS audio would sound mostly like.
That's pretty good sound.
Thanks.
We should definitely do that the whole podcast.
I do Foley work on the side.
Yeah, nice, Josh. We got a whole theme going here.
Mm-hmm. Now, Alan needs to have dual RX 480s because that's the only way
Oh?
you should run Ryzen.
Well, true, but he wants an SSD.
I mean, I think you should have 3.
Hold on.
If 2 is good, 3 is better, right?
always.
And
Just run
then
them by
only
8 by 8 by 4.
Ken, you're gonna have only run DX12 games.
Peter
No,
Cullen
no.
did that sound.
I'm going to
with his
run
mouth.
DX12 except for Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Peter Cullen, as in Optimus Prime.
Okay.
Kind of would take that microphone
Huh.
away from you.
This microphone's working out great. I love it.
I know.
That's interesting.
I don't know why I didn't do this earlier.
I know why.
Why?
Because I said so.
Okay.
All right, let's do a show.
Oh, all right. Jeremy,
We're
Josh?
here. Emails went out. Tweets went out.
Tweeters.
Who's the new guy on the right?
Bino.
Touche. All right, here we go. 3, 2. Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 445 and recorded on April the 12th, 2017. I'm Ryan Schraub.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Alan Valentano.
Fantastic. I'm so glad to be back. Or here for the first
start out with a
time.
He was
Why?
saving that just for you.
For the first
I'm
time.
so excited.
I'm excited to be back here with you too, Josh. I missed you so much. Missed you.
Yeah.
We have some stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk about Ryzen 5. That's going to be the vast majority of our conversations, I think. We also have a buyer's guide to get to. And we're going to mention the Frag and Frogs VLAN summary. I did have this. We found this on one of the shelves, and we were trying to find space for other things. This is the original Intel Nook box. This is a Core i3 model, I believe. Is that right?
I think it was an
Nice.
i5.
Nope,
You
Core
didn't
i3.
throw that away already?
I don't throw
You
anything
didn't have
away,
video
Josh.
you
Unfortunately.
with like 30 boxes struggling to go to the dumpster.
30, my butt. There's been a lot more than 30. This
Yeah.
had USB 2, HDMI, and Thunderbolt. So we were using this for a very long time as our file server. But it is Windows 8 compatible. One of my favorite things about this packaging that they don't do anymore, and I'm very disappointed. I know Alan listens to this show, so I hope he's listening. Not you. It does. It's going to be a little bit of a letdown now because of this.
The battery's dying.
Battery is dying.
So it turns into
It's
a rap
supposed to
song.
play the Intel jingle, and it almost gets there.
Yeah, can't make it all the way.
That was the remix.
See, it takes a little while. It's like the battery needs to rest a little bit longer to get enough oomph to even get over the edge.
Uh-huh.
But now you just get this nice.
Remix edition.
But they don't do that for the Nooks anymore, and I'm a little disappointed.
So that scared the crap out of you the first time you opened it up?
I would say scared the crap out of me is maybe an exaggeration.
Oh dear, he's taking it apart now. Just pull out the thing.
It's taped. I want to get.
No
getting
longer mint
worse.
condition.
It's getting
This
worse.
is a great audio podcast.
It's gotten worse, everybody.
It's
Okay,
ticking.
now it's a cricket that only knows one note.
Okay,
What
open
kind
it
of batteries
further.
does it take?
Open it further.
I'm
This
waiting
is
for the
Man,
remix
it's
version
got
of
4
this.
cells in there? Oh, 2. No.
There's an
Those
example
three.
for ya.
It's like 3.
And I can't turn it off.
Wait, when do we get an 808 on the podcast?
Yeah, what was
Everybody
it?
needs an 808.
Where's the
the
light
button?
sensor? There's a light
Oh, it
sensor.
was a light sensor?
Yeah, see?
It's like a cricket.
This does make for great audio show, I'm sure. I'm just going to hold this the rest of the day and
Just put it in the
see.
box and close it.
It's a non-user replaceable
There,
battery.
Stick it in there.
Did it get a star off on a review?
Yeah, if this were a
Throws the box away, it's just gonna hold it.
if this were an iFixit summary, this would get a 0.
Ease
for
of repairability.
Would be minimal. I don't know. Yeah, it's cardboard. All right. So anyway, that's how we're starting the show. Welcome everybody.
Still holding it.
We record the show on Wednesday nights. It is Wednesday night now, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific at pcpro.com/live. Thank you everybody who joins us. You get to hang out in the chat room and see all the funny before and after stuff that happens, or this. It doesn't.
Still doing it.
I don't know exactly where the light sensor
I
is,
saw the gap between your fingers.
but yeah, it's clearly not. Wow, it's really sticky.
Remember,
Easy,
you
guys.
asked for this.
Easy guys.
Battery powered and sticky, huh?
So if you need
And it's
a
in your left
reminder,
hand.
reminder for
This is that
our
friendly
live stream.
stranger.
Go to pcpro.com/subscribe and get this little notification list here. Or you sign up for a notification list with your name and your email address. And we'll send you a note when we're about ready to live stream an hour before, 20 minutes before, 2 hours before. It just depends on the day. And if we have any other events that we live stream, you'll be signed up for that. We do a lot of other ones with industry people that maybe give away prizes. So it might be something worth paying attention to. And of course, we still have our Patreon campaign ongoing. This is your way to, if you find any value at all in whatever the hell we do, you can go to patreon.com/PCPer, sign up here, and have a recurring monthly contribution of $1 or $5 or $10 or whatever you want it to be, and you kind of directly contribute to the content we create and Josh in some kind of roundabout way as well, and this podcast as well. So keep that in mind. If you happen to be one of those people that is an ad blocker, which I'm going to say, based on my metrics, approximately 45% of you are. And I know that not 45% of the people that listen to this are subscribing through Patreon. So I'll put that out there. So there is that. And I also wanted to quickly mention, as I go back here and find the page here, Jeremy, talk a little bit about the Fragging Frogs VLAN that happened this weekend. You were able to participate in at least the second half of said event.
Yep. Unfortunately, my Saturday mornings are filled with crap I have to do.
Yeah.
But the afternoon was a lot of fun. The guys got together. We had about 70 unique IPs over the day. At the peak, about 50 of us were playing at UT 2K4, of course. A bunch of new stuff like Ghost Recon Wildlands. The SCART from Tarkov just came out of its NDA alpha. Team Fortress 2. By the end of it, we were resorting to the worst games we could think of, which, of course, was Dino D-Day. The only game where you can pee on something as a dinosaur. It's utterly brilliant.
Okay. Interesting.
Come on. It's that bad. But AMD chipped in Ryzen 7 1700s, which we gave away. You guys offered some interesting things, including a slightly used case from Sebastian that ended up with Kali. But also 4 motherboards, a nice mechanical keyboard, one of Mori's giant coolers. So we had a lot of fun. A lot of people ended up with better hardware than they started out with. And hey, we will be doing another one. So keep an eye out on the front page. If not, just join up with the Fragging Frogs, because Lenny does a lot of work for this, but he also does work every week to make sure that there's at least a couple of games going on. Sign up, TeamSpeak. It's just fun.
Indeed. Oh, I forgot to mention from the Patreon campaign, if you are a new patron and or you increase your patronage, I will see an email come through on my phone and I will read your name and thank you on the live stream. So keep that in mind.
Gee, is that a new
as
thing?
well? I don't think so.
Cutting edge.
And based on this sound,
Oh, it made it all,
It made it all the way
you warmed up
through.
the battery with your hand.
oh yeah.
Ha.
Now it's never going to stop. So now that means it's time to talk about AMD, I guess. I guess I didn't think that through very well. That is the chime for moving on to the next story. So let's talk about Ryzen 5. So this is actually really annoying now. It stuck to my hand. There we go. Look at that.
How'd you make it not?
Made us in. I think the light sensor's on the bottom. So Ryzen 5 launched this week. This is AMD's second series or family of processors based on Zen. Ryzen 5 is lower cost, lower performance, lower core count than what we saw in Ryzen 7, as the name might say, indicate. Also, that the name might indicate that its primary competition is Intel's Core i5 line of processors. Ryzen 7 against Core i7, Ryzen 5 against Core i5. Clearly, somebody has been thinking. We've talked about kind of the general specs of what Ryzen 5 processors are because they've announced them, but it's worth going over it again real quickly. There's the 1600X, the 1600, the 1500X, and then the 1400. 6-core, 6-core, 4-core, 4-core in that order, all with SMT enabled. So a 6-core has 12 threads and a quad-core has 8 threads, which is that's a significant delta over what Intel has on their Core i5 line. The Core i5 7600K, which is the highest end Kaby Lake Core i5 part, priced competitively with the Ryzen 5 1600X. that is a quad-core 4-thread, so they do not have hyperthreading enabled on their parts. Now, you can see that here in this line of the table. So what that means is, if you buy a Ryzen 5 1600 or 1600X, you are getting 3 times the threading capability with the Ryzen 5 than you are with the 7600K. And if you buy a quad core, you're getting 2x the threading capability. Now, threads does not mean cores. You're not going to get 3x the performance. You're not going to get 2x the performance with the 1500X or 1400. But you will see some significant improvements on multi-threaded applications and workloads, right? Just out of the gate by default. And the clock speeds are relatively competitive as well. The 7600K is still the highest clocked part, 200 megahertz higher on the base and the boosts compared to the 1600X. But the 1600X is running at the same base and turbo clocks as the 1800X, which was the 8-core 16-thread part from the Ryzen 7 line. And it has the same amount of cache as well, similar TDPs, but that was a $499 part. This is a $249 part. So for half the money, you're getting 25% fewer cores at the same clock speed. So you can kind of just automatically you start to think like, okay, this is where the performance per dollar benefit really comes into play.
That's where you're getting into the sweet spot.
Right, for Ryzen for sure. So $249 for the 1600X, $219 for the 1600, $189 for the 1500X, and $169 for the 1400. So we're getting into the sub $200 processors. Our comparative parts from Intel are the 7600K, 7600, 7500, and 7400. Although all I really tested here was the 7600K and the 7500, as those are the ones that were priced up best with the 2 parts that AMD sent me, the 1600X and the 1500X.
Just out of curiosity, what is the cheapest 6-core Intel part?
It's, what is it, 380?
Oh, it'll be an i7.
Like 380?
It's an i7 on the Broadwell E platform, so it's an X99 system, right?
Yeah. So to even get 6 cores on the Intel side, you're getting close to doubling the cost.
Yeah. Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a big difference there.
Yeah.
Core count doesn't mean everything. IPC is still important. You know, we'll go through that in the performance part of our discussions. It's also worth noting that the AMD B350 chipset. So all the Ryzen processors out there today support both the X370 and the B350 chipset. X370 and B350 have very similar specifications. And Josh, correct me on this if you think I'm missing any of it.
You're wrong.
The B350 does not support multi-GPU. And
Correct.
It has, I think, 4 fewer USB 3.0 ports.
And I believe fewer SATA ports.
Okay.
I think 2 fewer.
2 fewer. Other than that, that's it. Like B350, you can still overclock. You can still change memory speeds and performance. They don't hold you back in any of those particular ways. If you look at what Intel has with the Z270 versus the B250 chipset, you want to talk about confusing things, right? B250, B350, those are not the same platforms.
Right.
So the B250 chipset from Intel doesn't support overclocking CPU or memory.
Or AMD.
Or AMD, yes. It also does not support overclocking AMD processors.
You cannot plug the AMD processor into that board. That's true.
So, you know,
Sebastian can, but
you can only do it once. So it's interesting because one of AMD's things was they wanted to talk about, hey, our platform is more robust at the same dollar amount than Intel's. I will say that because of the abundance of Z270 motherboards out there, you can get some pretty low-cost Z270 motherboards.
yeah.
And so
I have to interrupt real quick.
Sure.
Someone reminded us, and I believe this is true. The B350 does not support SLI, but I believe it does support Crossfire.
I think that's the case.
okay.
Yeah. X370 does both. B350 only one.
But does it do it through the way that Crossfire was supported on like 3-way configurations?
I don't know.
Like through the chipset? Because even if that's the case, I wouldn't recommend going that route. But I'll double check on that. That's a good point. So regardless, I think if you're comparing B350 and B250, AMD has the clear advantage in chipset and like kind of motherboard solutions there, because now B350 has support for M.2 and USB 3.1 and all that kind of modern stuff as well. But because there are more Intel options just by default out there's going to be a lot more options for you to.
You can
for you
get
to
a
pick from.
Z270 board starting at $100 right now.
Exactly. So the argument of, hey, B350 is better than B250 only takes you as far until you start to see Z270 boards in different configurations at different price points. Now,
Is there a difference in supported M.2 configurations between those two chipsets?
the AMD ones,
Yes.
I do not believe so.
Okay.
No. They both should support M.2 PCIe by 3 by 4 lanes. Yeah. PCIe 3.0 by 4 lanes. Yes.
Yep.
On 2 ports?
Just one.
Okay.
They only have one. Yeah. Which, I mean, realistically is, they're not supporting Optane. So there's that.
I mean, you could add another one that just like it'd be going a different route.
You can add it into
like,
an
you could
add-in
use-
yeah,
slot
slot.
too.
You could use
yeah.
like PCIe
Yeah.
lanes, just
So before we get into the actual Ryzen 5 benchmarks, we added a couple things to this review that I think were not added to the Ryzen 7 review because information and kind of debates and discussions occurred after the fact. The first one being memory speed testing. And if you look at this graph here, please ignore my typo of DDR4 200, which is actually DDR4 2400.
Very, very slow.
It's very slow DDR4 memory.
And
It's
yet it
amazing how
performed
high
just
it
the same.
performs. Yeah. So basically, I took the 1600X and ran it at DDR4 2133, 2400, 2933, and 3200,
Yeah.
and just saw what impact it had on performance. And as you can see here, in like Cinebench single and multi, up to 3%. I'm sorry, 3% faster in the largest scale.
Yeah.
Handbrake, almost no difference. Slice-off memory bandwidth, of course, it is a memory bandwidth test. So you're getting
increasing
28
the memory speed, made the memory bandwidth go up.
It's
Wow.
very weird. I just felt like this needed to be in here. You get a 28% increase going from 2133 memory to 3200 memory.
Okay.
Right? In actual
That's
bandwidth.
probably
So,
just what the proportion works out to. Yeah.
Geekbench here is a little bit more susceptible to the memory bandwidth than other benchmarks show to be, up to 7%, going from one to the other. But keep in mind, I think 2400 is probably the base that most people like. Nobody's buying 2133 memory at this point. So 2400, so you're going from 3% to 7%. So it's 3 or 4%.
It's all
additional.
about the base. Yeah.
Exactly.
No
Yeah.
trouble?
Now Blender, no advantages. So, but now here, the last 4 are games, right? So
Yeah,
Ryzen,
once you get to the games, all of a sudden.
yeah, Rise of the Tomb Raider up to 12%, Hitman 14%, GTA 5 12%, Wildlands almost nothing.
Huh.
And this is what really got me. Like I was looking through the results, I was like, wow, clearly faster memory, just boom, automatic game performance
then there's a
improvement.
game
But
that
then
it
there's
didn't.
one of the games I looked at where there was no difference.
And so it really just depends on the,
I guess
something in a gaming workload.
You got to
is-
do some contention tests.
Yeah.
Bus contention.
Yeah.
So essentially, how you want to do that, or do you want me to explain how you should do that on air?
No, I mean I guess not.
Okay.
I mean, so, and also it's worth
We'll
noting,
discuss it later.
even going from 2133 to 2400, you're getting, 6% in Rise of the Tomb Raider, 6% in Hitman. So, you're going up to 14% from that base. So there's clearly a performance delta there. And that's why when AMD came to talk to media, they were talking about, hey, we're going to send you DDR4 3200 memory. And I had this debate going back and forth with them about what I was going to test in like the review part of it.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, look, in my view, this is a budget platform. 3200 memory is more expensive, even if it's only by $20 or $30. $20 or $30 is 20%, 10 to 20% of your processor price, right? That's a significant delta.
Yeah.
But as 3200 memory, as 2933 memory comes down, this makes a lot more sense.
That's
right?
true.
So, and we also tested Windows 10 Power Mode, and we'll talk about a different story that AMD has their own profile that they came out with. But I thought this was interesting. I tested high performance and balance, which should again be the two extremes for AMD on this. This is with the 1500X. And I did a whole bunch of benchmarks, and you'll see a lot of these tests are 0.6%, 0.5%, 1.3%. And that was actually, the balance mode was a little bit faster in those. 1.8% faster in Geekbench. Web Expert showed a 14% performance advantage in high performance. That is a general productivity application benchmark that really thrives on responsiveness, so it kind of makes sense that would be the case. But if you look at everything else, there's a couple places where balanced is They're essentially
your
identical within margin of error,
yeah,
right? Cinebench single is the only other place where we saw something worth noting, and that's 4.7%. And that is, honestly, that's the one where AMD said, hey, the scores are different here. This is why we think.
What about the games?
When I go down to the games, we saw 1% in Civ, 3.6% in Tomb Raider, nothing in Hitman, nothing in Ashes, nothing in GTA, nothing in Deus Ex, nothing in Far Cry Primal, and nothing in Wildlands.
So there was some difference, but only in a couple of games.
There was one game, right? Like Civ 6 is 1.3%. I wouldn't count that.
Tomb Raider seems to be such a dang problem child.
Tomb Raider is a problem child, right?
What is
but
going on
it's
with
also
that game?
giving us like interesting windows into the performance discussion, even if it's the case. But if you look at the memory scaling, like Tomb Raider wasn't the only one that showed performance advantages there.
Yep.
Only in the power mode stuff there. So, you know, AMD wanted everybody to test in high power mode. I don't think it's that important, except if you use Cinebench as your benchmark, then you're going to see a difference.
Yeah.
Right. And there may be some slight advantages in like actual, you know, consumer. If you use a lot of Excel and Word and PowerPoint and all this other type of stuff that may be going on. And then finally, in terms of supplementary testing, we did our CCX latency testing.
Yep.
Pinging between cores. We've had this discussion before. We wanted to make sure that two things. One, the CCXs were divided how AMD said they were. 1600X is 3 plus 3. 3 cores on a CCX plus 3 cores on another CCX, 1 disabled on each module.
Okay. And that's definitely what's going on.
It's definitely the case. And the 1500X is 2 by 2. There's not a, sometimes it'll be 3 plus 1, sometimes it'll be 4 plus 0. None of that exists. It's all,
so they just said they're only ship, like the only way they're going to ship them is, okay. Well, that's good.
And I also did testing here. You can see this with the 1600X at the same memory speeds, 2133, 2400, 2933, and 3200, because the fabric, the Infinity Fabric, the interconnect inside that connects these two CCX modules runs at the DDR speed.
I think it's half of the DDR speed.
Well, it's half of 2400, but it's 1200 megahertz.
Yeah.
Right. So it's running at the memory speed without the doubling.
Sure.
Right. And this is kind of the result that was interesting to look at. Right. This is the latency between
the CCXs.
module to module.
Yep.
And it decreases pretty dramatically as we increase that memory speed.
Basically proportional to or inversely proportional to the, you know.
And so when you see some of our game result tests at the different things, this is kind of, again, directly proportional to those things, indicating that there's just more, it's more complex than AMD seemed to, I don't want to say seemed to realize, but that they wanted to tell us about up front.
Right.
And then we had to do all this kind of discovery on our own for whatever reason. So there's that. And, you know, for the sake of brevity, I'm going to not talk about all the performance results and just say in single-threaded results, the results look very similar to the Ryzen 7 story.
Yep.
The Core i5 processors and Kaby Lake are better at single-threaded performance workloads, right? Cinebench single, you know, your web experts, your Sysmarks, those types of things. You know, the 7600K is going to be ahead of the other parts. But when you get into multi-threaded workloads, like even inside Sysmark, something like the data and financial, which is a multi-threaded workload, the 1600X is significantly ahead of the 7600K and the 7500.
Yeah, I mean, it's as if it had 2 more cores.
It's as if it did. But I mean, but even the 1500X has the same number of cores with more, but it has more threads. Yeah. Right. So there's
more threads helps too.
There are benefits there.
You know, it being a hyper-threaded part versus the Intel part that's not hyper-threaded.
Scroll to the bottom of all this. As I go to, let me go to the one that
you don't want to read the comments?
Yeah, no, I definitely don't want to read the comments on this. So here, this is a good page. Audacity, single-threaded. Okay, 7600 and 7500, well ahead of the 1600X and the 1500X, right?
Yep.
But let's take a look at, let's see, X264 right here, right? X264 encode. Now these, you know, the 7600K is running 54 frames per second versus 88 frames per second on the 1600X. That is more cores, more threads. And even the 1500X with the same number of cores, yes, it has twice the threads. So it's winning by, I don't know, let's see, 6. So we'll say, you know, 10%, 8% or something like that. But it's ahead, and the 1500X is a way less expensive part than the 7600. Okay. is. So it's impressive from anything that is multi-threaded. Like look at the Blender workloads. How much less time it takes than the Core i5 does. If you're a budget guy who wants, you want to get into game development, you're doing stuff for work or for school, right? You're going to have an advantage. Now, obviously, we included these results here for like the 1800X and the 7700K just for comparison's sake. They're going to be faster. They're the more expensive platform. But clearly, the 1600X and the Ryzen 5 parts have some solid results there. And then in terms of gaming, we kind of already showcased this on the previous page. We went from 4 games to 8 games in the Ryzen 5. We only tested 4 games quickly in the Ryzen 7. We did 8 games in the Ryzen 5 test. And some of them we didn't have time to run. I was out of town all week, so I only brought the Ryzen 5 hardware with me to test. And it looks better than the Ryzen 7 did in some instances because it has the core thread count advantage over the competing Intel parts, right? So like Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, 1080p, very high, no delta at all, right?
Yeah, it's basically identical.
Yep. Far Cry Primal, interesting because the 7600K was consistently faster than the 7500, even though they don't differ by very much on, they have the same core and thread count, but clock speeds, they're pretty different.
Yeah.
Right? So, GTA 5, the Ryzens are behind. Hitman, the Ryzens are a little bit ahead. Rise of the Tomb Raider, the Ryzens are behind. Ghost Recon, a little bit behind, but not a whole lot.
It's as if it's like a truly competitive thing.
It is. So here would be my summation of performance.
Win some, lose some, like...
Single-threaded applications, Ryzen 5 loses. Yep. Multi-threaded applications, Ryzen 5 wins by a lot.
Yeah.
Like it's not close.
If the thing is using enough threads where it needs the extra threads. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Multi-threaded, it wins.
Yep.
Clearly. Gaming, the Intel parts still have the edge, but it's not by as much.
Yeah.
Right? It's a little bit more muted than it was on the Ryzen 7 side.
Because we're comparing the lower cost Intel parts.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Ryzen 5 performance doesn't really change a whole lot inside that window. So, talking about comments, Josh, a lot of people in the comments didn't like my review. I thought it was very positive, and it's basically the summation was that. Like, it's pretty good at gaming, but if you want the best gaming, it's still Intel's Core i5 line in this segment.
Yeah.
If you do anything multi-threaded, it's stupid to buy anything else. Like, if you can get 6 cores and 12 threads for the same price as 4 threads, don't do that. Like,
exactly.
Or do that. Don't buy the Intel one.
Right.
So
it's definitely the most cores and threads for your money. There's no doubt about it. I mean, there's just no way around it.
AMD was very aggressive in this. You kind of almost look at this and go, had AMD launched with this or all of it at once, which maybe would have been too much for people to kind of digest at one
nobody
time.
would have bought 7.
That's probably true.
And plus, there would just be like no motherboards available anywhere.
That's true as well. Yeah. Motherboard availability was already an issue, but it's this to me was like the lead step, right?
Yeah.
Like this is your best foot, right? Because this is the price segment where the majority of people are buying. This is the one that's going to get the most attention in forums and on Reddit and all those different places where these communities can kind of get together and discuss it. There's the least question marks about performance here versus Ryzen 7. But there is something very compelling about launching with a $500 part that beats a $1,000 part from your competitor.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what the 1800X really was. So Ryzen 5, it's available. It's out there for sale now.
So
I didn't see it's
one more point about this is that even though the DX12, one of the DX12's examples that we were using is a problem child, Tomb Raider, right? You could probably flip that argument around, and as opposed to saying avoid DX12 or something, like DX12 is still a good thing for even this CPU. Someone that buys Ryzen 5, some new DX12 title comes out that's not a problem child that loads the CPU less. Because it's DX12, properly optimized game, right, would probably do just as well on Ryzen 5 as it did on the Intel parts. In other words, they're like moving forward, your games are probably going to be less likely to show you, such a difference based on CPU.
I would think so. Remember, it's so interesting because you look at AMD, and when it was Radeon Group talking about it, DX12 was super important because it was going to show the benefits, for their lower end processors and the whole platform as a whole was going to scale up better with it. And with Ryzen, you have more cores and more threads. So in theory, better threading at the engine level,
that's true too,
and the API level would be a benefit.
Yeah.
There's just other stuff going on that keeps that from being the case currently.
Today.
Right?
Yeah.
AMD showed the ashes of the Singularity stuff, that they could get engine adjustments, they could see improvements. Whether or not that can be applied, not necessarily globally, but to a wider range of games and game engines is yet to be seen. I think that's really the proof point that they need to get across.
Yep.
They need somebody else other than Ashes to come out and do it. They need, if you could get Unreal Engine to show a 25% improvement on Ryzen processors, you basically win
Yeah.
the internet.
Well, they're probably pushing Unreal pretty hard.
It's
try
all about
to- to try to
relationships, right?
optimize, yeah.
I mean, it's and you're talking about moving a much more mammoth beast.
Yeah.
It's what's the largest ships are the hardest ones to move, right? And Epic and Unreal is the largest ship
Yes.
in the ocean, for sure.
Well,
So-
I mean, they're going to have pressure from more than just AMD as people buy these CPUs and start to use them. Like when the
Not
community
enough.
starts to
Not
pressure
enough.
you.
I mean, not
No?
enough. No.
Well, you don't think eventually it's going to happen? I'm not saying right now, like tomorrow they're going to release a big
Not
patch
this
for
year.
Unreal Engine.
I don't think there's enough community pressure for something to affect this year. There might be other pressures and just opportunity costs there
Yeah.
for them to take advantage of it. So that's Ryzen 5. Go ahead.
Has there been any more follow-up on the non-NVIDIA benchmarks with Ryzen and Intel,
Non-NVIDIA benchmarks.
where they had the dual RX 480s on Rise of the Tomb Raider and it showed a massive improvement over the 1080 for the Ryzen part?
So you're talking about that there were different performance deltas between Ryzen and Core whatever using a Radeon GPU than an Intel GPU.
I believe it was specifically dual RX 480s where the difference came up.
When you get into multi-GPU, it's a totally different story, right? And no, I haven't looked at any multi-GPU stuff. I had heard some people complain that like, oh, you need to be testing an RX 480 on this because NVIDIA's drivers suck or something, whatever the accusation was.
If they suck on an Intel CPU, they're just going to suck the same on an AMD CPU.
I don't want to get into it
Yeah.
about the debate of
It's definitely a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
sure, but it's all interesting information to dive into. It's just a matter of picking and choosing with limited resources of time.
In this case, it was not just limited resources and time. It was like a specific configuration for one game.
Yeah.
Like you tested like what 30, 40 different things there in this piece.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You can't spin up a
Applications.
separate
Yeah,
test
yeah,
bed
yeah.
and do the install and all that time invested just to like one game. Like that's okay. If somebody wants to do that somewhere on the internet, fine. Let them have at it. But,
See, I
you
mean, I don't want to dive down the hole, but like,
just, you
I'm one guy, and maybe we have two guys, maybe three, like with the Ryzen 7 launch, we have maybe three people doing different things at different times
Yeah.
in terms of testing. But there are thousands of people on the internet, as it turns out, all of
And
which
they've got a lot of time.
all of which have computers and time.
They have a lot of time.
right?
And
And
opinions.
in one day, 1,000 people can run a lot more tests than I can run. And so coming into the comments and complaining about I wasn't running A, B, C, and D, I'm like, well, yes, why don't you run A?
Yeah.
Your buddy runs B, and your other guy runs C, and then you report back and tell me, and I'll listen. I may not do anything with it, but I'll at least listen,
That's true.
right?
Speaking of other things we were doing in
Yes.
the office, while you were testing,
I was testing Ryzen 5.
you were testing Ryzen 5.
Yes.
Ken and I were dorking around with the balanced power plan thing,
Yes.
which basically is just a custom power profile that you add to Windows.
So when you go into your power options in the operating system, you can choose between balance and high performance.
Yep.
This gives you a third option.
Yep.
On a
Did you-
desktop PC, which most people may never have even bothered to touch.
That's the thing. Most people will typically not change that at all.
Right.
Because if you do put it in high performance, it basically just runs your CPU max like all the time.
Right.
Like the regular high performance mode. Like it
Yep.
just, it doesn't spin down, nothing. You're basically just sucking extra power from the wall for, even when you're
Little
completely
reason.
idle. Like you're
Yeah.
asleep at night, your computer's
It's like
still
you're
running.
running a heavy-duty 3D screensaver.
Basically.
Yes.
Yeah. Even if your computer's just sitting there only showing you the desktop and not doing a thing.
Bring
right?
back 3D screensavers.
So since there were differences that, differences in how Windows instructs the CPU to go to different power levels, or, when it parks cores, when it does different things, to kind of work around the unique parts of what Ryzen CPUs do that Windows is not yet aware of, they came up with their own power profile that will get you probably 9/10 of the way there.
Right.
It's not the perfect thing. It's not as good as if it was just integrated into Windows and like Microsoft made some changes or something like that. But it gets you most of the way there.
Sure.
And I kind of dove into it. We installed the profile. It's like you could install a power profile into Windows with just like a special kind of data file format. But instead of distributing it that way, it's like it's an installer. It has that power profile that it installs. It just does the work for you because you'd have to like script it to get it in there. And then it has a really tiny executable that just runs like one time. And all that does is it just switches your profile to that profile.
Oh, it does switch it to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes it the active one, right? Because, the average person running this might not even know that there is a place you have to go in Windows to change that thing, right? So it's just run this thing, And AMD did say that they're going to put this in with their, what's the name of their software package for?
The driver?
Yeah, but it's not a CPU driver per se. It was the other.
Oh, Relive?
Like the chipset drivers, or?
Well,
Relive,
I think you install it all through like a graphics-like driver.
Yeah, I mean the plan is for this not to be a standalone thing in the future. Just be like something that's rolled up in that package. It'll just
until they can work with Microsoft and actually integrate it into
Right.
So I do want to show this. This first table or graph you have here is not data we gathered.
Yes, we did not do that many tests.
This is data that AMD gave us that we then put into a graph form so people could kind of look at it easily.
Yep.
And I want to point this out because I just did a whole thing where I looked at a 1600X in balance and high performance and showed only one or maybe two applications that even noticed a difference. They are showing a whole bunch of applications that show significant differences.
Yep, and we were able to confirm two of them.
The ones in the blue?
The ones that are highlighted blue.
GTA 5 Max.
Yep.
And Rise of Tomb Raider very high, which is the one I saw in my testing as well.
And so, and don't get me wrong, we tested some other ones that were not on their list that showed no gain, similar to what you saw in your other testing of other games, right?
But I don't want to discount this list because there's a lot of stuff on here. Alien Isolation, Batman Arkham Knight, Battlefield 4, Battlefield 1, Ultra, Bioshock Infinite, which is, so, I mean, some of these games are a little bit old, like there's Crysis 3 is on here.
Yeah, so basically we didn't confirm all the numbers, but I kind of spot checked a couple.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And,
some of them, like Murdered Soul Suspect, is 14%. Crysis 3, this is funny to talk about, is 21%.
Yeah, I mean, Rise of the Tomb Raider, like the result we saw was actually a higher percent gain. We were testing it very high instead of, I think it was Ultra for them. Okay. But like we saw more. And then for GTA 5, we saw a little bit less. But like it's, seems legit, right?
Yeah.
It's I'm not being skeptical of it or anything like that. So, with that, you definitely don't want to just leave a Ryzen system sitting imbalanced if you're a gamer. Like you're going to run into games that potentially, so given this option of this other power profile, just do that. It still runs it as if it was balanced. The Ryzen CPU, even though some people were, I think even in the comments they were jumping on, hey, this thing runs, it won't let the CPU go lower than 90%. Well, that doesn't mean that Ryzen will not go lower than 90% because Ryzen is able to do stuff internally.
Yes.
The thing is, you have to run it lower than 100 for it to be able to do that stuff.
Correct.
Is the point.
Yes. It needs to be at a non-max P state in order for its internal clock and power management to be able to access it and modify things and drop it down. It also means that the clock speeds being reported by something like CPU-Z or Ada64 are going to likely be incorrect.
Or even Windows Task Manager.
Yes, even Windows Task Manager, correct.
Yeah, especially Windows Task Manager,
okay,
actually.
Especially. So we go over here, and if you're interested, you can see this chart that shows
I dug a little deeper
the different
into
defaults.
Yeah, I dug a little deeper into the profile, showing the numbers it is actually tweaking. So there wasn't any kind of trickery in this power profile. It wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary, like as far as what Windows was designed to be able to manipulate in a power profile, right? It's just that not all of those numbers are exposed to a person that just goes digging around in their profile.
Right.
So you kind of have to dig around in the registry and enable some other things and turn all this other stuff on so that you can actually view what all the other numbers are for the different plans. So I just kind of broke out, there's dozens and dozens of those settings, but I just chose to only show the deltas for the ones that actually had deltas for,
Right.
to tell this specific story about what this profile was doing for those that were, wanted to get technical on it.
The summation from this is it's one of many things that AMD can tell people to do to try to improve their overall experience.
Right. And I mean, this will
and it's easy enough to do.
Yeah.
We debated internally a lot here on when I was doing my Ryzen 5 benchmarking, do I run it at balanced or do I run it in high performance? I ended up running it in both, obviously based on the data you saw. I saw very little variance in my application selection. And it just, there are thousands of games out there, and the 8 that I picked, only one of them showed an actual change.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the ones that they saw the differences is like older titles. So
I mean,
I wouldn't expect you to test a bunch of older titles for a Ryzen 5 review.
And that's fine. I'm not blaming it for any of that stuff. But it's very much a story of, okay, you've got your Ryzen. Now adjust your power profile.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about memory scaling, memory performance. Make sure you've got the latest BIOS and firmware, right?
Yeah.
Like all of these things are adding up to a little bit more performance in these different workloads.
Yeah.
And it's not anything we've had to ever ask people to do before.
That's true.
Right? When an Intel platform came out, you just, whatever.
Yep.
And you didn't even worry about it.
And we were internally in the office I was really skeptical personally of just telling people blanketly to go in high performance mode.
It seemed like a bad idea.
That for me was like, no. Like that's a ridiculous ask.
Yeah.
Right? But replace it with a profile like this, now I'm okay with it. Like that makes sense. That's still a balanced power profile. It does, it might run like a watt or two more, compared to what balanced did.
The AMD one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't do detailed power measurements for this.
They told me very explicitly that it was like 2 to 3 watts total measured power difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, take the couple of watt difference, but you're getting much better performance in a decent amount of games, decent amount of situations, right?
All right. We've talked about Ryzen 5 for a very long time. Go to the review website, which is pcpro.com, the review website.
Yes.
And look up this stuff here, and you'll see our reviews. Before we get on to our next thing, the buyer's guide, I do want to mention on our Patreon, we have Adam, no last name, just Adam, pledged $10. Thank you, sir. That's amazing. We have EOIN. Ian?
Ian.
Deneen. DINEEN.
Okay.
Ian Deneen pledged $5. Thank you, sir. And Wayne Prolisco edited their pledge up to $5. So thank you guys very much. We really appreciate that. All right, so we talked about that for a long time. Let's sprint through the other stuff. We posted a spring 2017 buyer's guide. Sebastian did most of the work putting this together. This is basically just a general run through of the components we like today. Not specific selections, not like here's a build and here's a video putting it all together, but it's okay, here we like Ryzen 7. Here's the Core i7 equivalents, here's the pricing and some general discussion around it. Here's some GPUs we like. We like the 1080 on the high end, or 1080 Ti on the high end, 1060 at the low end. 480 is an interesting one because of all the rumors coming around about updates to the RX 480 in the relatively near future. Some motherboard selections from X370 to Z270. Your memory, we talk about higher speed memory as well for those people who are buying Ryzen processors. It doesn't have the effect on the Intel platform, but there's always the Ryzen parts. We talked about, I put the 960 Evo in here.
Yep.
I guess Evo or Pro. Evo's is good enough.
Evo is pretty dang good.
Evo's pretty dang good. I like that. Let's put that on the box.
I mean,
Samsung 850 Evo for the SATA, and then for the lumbering, mass storage drives.
Hard drive?
Western Digital Red.
Well,
is listed on there. Sebastian has some cases and coolers that he recommends. We have mice. We have this little guy here, the SATA IDE hard drive adapter.
Sweet.
Handy.
for those older hard drives you might have sitting around. The Lexar jump drive that Sebastian reviewed recently that he's still a big fan of. I like the G900 mouse from Logitech.
I too like the G900 mouse.
And then we brag about having power battery backups that everybody should have for all of their computers that they actually like having around.
Actually, keep an eye. That's that same model we have in the office, right?
Yeah, it is.
Keep an eye on that thing because it occasionally goes on sale for almost half off.
It wasn't quite that much.
It was close.
It was like 140, but they have another model that's the same specs. It does not have the PFC feature.
perfect sine wave.
Yes.
You want the perfect sine.
Do you? Okay. We got some switches. Everybody needs switches. And then
Cherry MX.
headphones, webcams, that type of stuff.
not that
If you
kind of
just
switch.
if you're in the spring buying mood, you got your tax return back, or if you're like me and filed a tax extension, and you don't have to pay for a little bit longer, feel free to go to that buying guide and see if there's anything worth picking up. So, I am going to run through the next couple of these pretty quickly because
Run like the wind.
they're not on the show here. Alpha Cool, pronunciation again. Ice Block.
Ice block.
I think they're going for Ace Block.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I get it. I see, guys. Good
a
job.
block.
The XPX CPU water block review. Obviously, Maury is the one who posted this here.
Nice looking block.
Yeah. I guess.
Is that a composite? Like the top is composite, I guess?
I don't know. You tell me.
Looks like just a molded plastic.
3D, more maybe
I
it was
think
3D.
it's Lexan.
Well, I mean, it's a black, so.
But he got it in not black. See this picture here.
Oh,
Yeah.
silver.
So let's see. Let me run through if you either love water cooling or you think it's overkill, let's see some of our performance features here. Cooler comparison testing. Thank goodness for Maury on all this stuff. So we've got the AlphaCool Ice Block XPS default and alternate settings. And they appear to be, at least on this 5960X, at or amongst the best, falling behind maybe only the XSPC Raystorm Pro. We look at kind of max core usage. And then really good results again. XPSC Raystorm Pro kind of falling behind it a little bit.
Maury says the top is aluminum.
Aluminium.
Oh, all right.
Exactly.
We gotta prepare, Josh. We're gonna be in London soon.
Yes.
But this is, I think it's relatively inexpensive. $69 at Amazon.
It's pretty cheap for a water box.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
They usually run like 90, 100.
Yeah. Performance under strengths, performance under stock and overclocking conditions, build quality, mounting, out of the box support for current Intel and AMD offerings, including Ryzen. Weaknesses: the acetal top.
What the heck? Okay, well, I
Acetal?
thought he what?
Acetal.
You said it was aluminium. I thought it was.
Yeah. He's a
something-
liar.
I think the top that's underneath the aluminium
Oh yeah, the top
shroud
of the water block with the micro channels. Sure.
is yeah.
Fair enough. Fair
He's a liar.
enough.
They should have just not put that part on there and just had the aluminum be the top. Doesn't make any sense.
Mm.
Well, unless they're worried about corrosion. Never mind.
Anodizing.
Aluminum right next to copper, and
Sure.
bad things
Sure.
happen.
Also today, Lee posted a review of the Vivo 24K 650 watt gold power supply.
It's a gold.
I will
power
freely
supply.
admit that this is a brand new company to me, but they have the 24 karat and gold.
They sell like monitor arms and stuff.
Really?
Yeah. My roommate bought a Vivo like 4 monitor arm at some point. It's weird because like I saw this review and I thought about that. I'm like, that's weird.
So does this power supply
Power
have,
supply and monitor arms? That's
Does-
kind
does-
of an odd
does the
crossover.
power supply have video in and video out on it or something? Or just,
No, single
No,
12
but it's got
volt rail.
rounded corners.
seems to be
It
where their
does
name
have
came
rounded
from.
corners, yes. For safety, Jeremy, for safety. Uh,
It does look pretty cool.
yeah, I mean, it's hard to put too much into the look and style of a power supply
Yeah,
when
I know.
often, especially in newer chassis where they put in their own compartment with
Yep.
like a little box over it, so you don't even get to see it.
Yeah.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So, and Lee even says that Vivo is testing the waters with the introduction of 24K 200 or 650 watt power supply to offer an 80 plus gold certified, fully modular power supply at an affordable price to budget minded consumers. So that gives you an idea of kind of what segment we're working into here. 5-year warranty at 105C rated caps. No, I'm sorry. A 5-year warranty would have made him happier. It is a 3-year warranty on this one. $58 on Amazon.com, $59 on Newegg. So clearly in the budget segment. But it did get good voltage regulation, quiet fan, up to 12 volt output, or up to 52 amp output on the 12 volt. Weaknesses being that 3-year warranty, relatively large for a 650 watt power supply, and the 85C rated caps instead of the 105C rated caps on that power supply. But you are getting what you pay for. It's still got a silver award from them. And again,
that's kind of
$58.
inexpensive.
$58 is, yeah. Long term, we'll see. And
I've got a great idea for a water block.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, I do. I think I'm gonna make one out of nickel and lead, and then I'm gonna have some special cooling fluid through there. It's gonna be electric.
I get it. I see what you did there.
I'm all like,
Just gonna power the computer right off of the
It'll be a Peltier cooler.
the water block.
Can you push voltage in through the top of a processor and power it that way?
Jam it in there.
osmosis.
Like, is that? I mean, I don't know. Electric. It all goes to the same place.
Yes,
Well, then you're just gonna have electroplating.
it's true. Hey, it's just
Custom
another battery.
electroplated CPUs.
Your
Is
heat
it-
spreader will only last for
I was gonna say,
a few
is
weeks.
is a heat spreader more or less effective if you are applying the electric through the heat spreader?
You make the heat spreader into the Peltier cooler.
You just put a really big backplate on it to absorb some of the extra heat.
Okay.
I
You
get
actually put cooling underneath the pins, between the pins and the motherboard.
Exactly.
And
That's
then
where
you
you
can
put
ask
the
your
cooling
friends,
plate.
hey, touch the top of that and see if it's hot.
Not friends you like, I guess.
Keep pouring this water on it.
Sebastian posted a review of the Lian Li PC Q17 Mini ITX aluminum enclosure. I'm getting all prepped. So there it is. It's tiny.
Is it on a skewed angle? Is that its thing?
No, the
It's a
front
rhombus.
is sloped.
It's a parallelogram, whatever.
It's a rhombus.
Rhombus?
We're
Okay.
gonna have geometry debates in here again.
Again?
It's not a prism.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, very good.
This is an ROG. I don't know if it's not ROG sponsored, but it's like,
It's got the logo on
yeah,
the side of the case.
it's like co-branded. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Mini tower chassis, 2 expansion slots. It apparently has room for 3.5 inch hard drives, 5 2.5 inch drives, even an external 5 1/4 inch drive bay. Is that a joke? What's that mean? An external
Could plug
drive
in a
bay.
USB
Oh,
drive.
up
It's a
top up here?
CD style at the top.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I don't know
laptop
why
style,
do you
really.
consider that external?
No, it doesn't. It says slim ODD built in.
Okay. I gotcha. External.
but it looks like that's a
colon.
removable plate,
Yeah, I gotcha.
so that you could have.
Nothing instead.
No, you could have a like
You think
5 1/4 thing. Like
I'm
looks
gonna
like it's-
I'm gonna say
I don't know if you
not,
could actually fit a
but
5
we'll look-
1/4
we'll
inch
look
drive.
I
inside.
don't think you can when you look at
Yeah.
the inside and the angle of it.
Brushed aluminum, USB 3.0 on the front. Tight quarters for working space, I'm sure.
It's small enough you don't have to hire a lorry.
Good. Keep getting the Britishisms going. That's good. I mean, clearly, when you look at this picture, it is simply a square chassis with the like front
Chassis.
angular.
chassis.
The bonnet is
Yeah.
I was
slow
trying to
bonnet.
find a way to use the word buggy, but I don't.
Was Sebastian chuffed to bits with this case?
Might have been chafed. I don't know
maybe
about
was.
chuffed. I don't know. And so you can actually see. Oh, that's actually interesting. Underneath that faceplate is one of the
that's for an
drive
optical
cages.
drive.
Oh, it
That's
is.
yeah, that's optical drive cage.
Sort of like
But
a
it's
Fran.
still slim.
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't look
And
like
you
it
can
fits a
still
full.
fit an SSD in there.
Yeah.
yeah. You can
Pre-mounted
put an
slim
SSD in that
ODD
spot.
bracket.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you scroll down more, there's a picture.
Gotcha.
You got a Vertex 480 sitting there.
A vertically mounted power supply, obviously with some space constraints, but you can't. Is that a SSD being mounted? Oh, on the front.
That's
of it.
in place
Okay.
of the optical drive. yeah.
Gotcha. Room for water cooling up front. He always has the toughest jobs to deal with. These small, little, tiny cases. Good thing he's a tiny,
He has
tiny
small
man.
hands.
All right. Well, we just went there. You can see the graphics card installed here. It is close to the bottom, but even if you have a blower style cooler, it's vented along the bottom, so it should be able to get air in from the bottom.
And the case does have
cat hair,
feet,
dog hair,
so
dust. That might be a problem
that's
for
true.
you.
It's gonna go straight in.
I would
the GPU will just suck it up and blow it out the back.
yeah,
It's fine.
perfectly clean, no residue left behind. I'm sure.
Done.
I would just tell you to clean more, I guess. I don't know what else to say about that.
Well, it's so small that you can just flip it over and vacuum it.
Well, the idea is it's small enough to be sitting on your desk probably as opposed to sitting on your floor.
True,
so
true.
That
As long
helps
as it's-
significantly
yeah.
with dust.
And you can see
And this would make it really hard to describe because it is about the same size as a bread box.
Yep. The power cord comes in the back, and it actually has a little extension to plug into the power supply because the power supply cable is at the top. In terms of temperatures, he did some testing with the Core i5 6600K and the R9 290X reference that you saw there, and gives you some idle load temperatures as well as noise levels. It's okay. It's loud, right, for a reference cooler. Even for one of those older reference coolers, but you are working in tight space where the fan has to spin a lot to get that air to come through that bottom vent.
And there's not a
pretty
lot of case in the
effectively.
way of shielding you from the sound.
Correct. $189, so pretty pricey. Strengths, premium all aluminum construction, room for full-size components, excellent cooling. Weaknesses being limited storage space with some component choices, and would like to see a tempered glass window at this price. I would agree. So $189 if you wanna, I guess.
Here it is. Come and get it.
We'll mention this quickly, though I don't have any hands-on experience with it yet, so I don't know how much we can talk about it. But
It's
the
on
Windows.
this.
Sorry.
It's on this.
It's Windows 10.
Yeah,
It's
The
fine.
Windows 10 Creator. Oh, you installed it on your
Yeah.
machine. The Windows 10
Yeah,
Creators update.
the best thing about it
Yes.
is it adds a new mail icon to your taskbar
It's true.
Yeah.
It
that you
does.
immediately unpin.
Yeah.
And in my case, I must have had a bug something or another. It showed up and I'm like, did what everybody else on the planet probably did. And, oh, what's that crap? Unpin.
Right.
It stayed there. Like the icon went away. And like it was to the left of other things that were running to the right of it. And it just left a blank spot on the taskbar. And I was like, what the heck is that? And I tried dragging it
Space
over.
reserved for Clippy.
Yeah, basically. And I was dragging across a blank spot on the taskbar that the other icons were shuffling around. And
Sounds
it's just-
reasonable.
yeah.
I haven't installed it on any of my machines yet, but I will. Obviously, the thing that's probably most important to our group and community is the game mode that they is now publicly available. This is a. They haven't really gone into a whole bunch of detail, and I've tried to read a bunch of stories about it, and everybody
3D MS Paint. Come on.
everybody has a bunch of anecdotal. Oh, somebody said this type of thing, or we assume it's doing this.
Yeah, nobody has technical.
The general assumption is that they are prioritizing the processes of the game over the other processes.
Yep.
Like setting it to a higher priority than just a normal priority.
Yep. And they might be context.
As long as you got it from Windows Store.
They might be context switching
'Cause it
those
supports
processes
UWP
less often.
natively.
Like they might be switching those processes around, juggling them from
Correct.
core to core
Correct.
less often. It's possible.
It's possible. Jeremy, it doesn't support UWP only.
No, not only.
Oh.
But it's built in. If you were running a UWP game, game mode will automatically give you benefits. If you're not, they've provided code to developers so that they can take advantage of it, but wait for the patch.
But I think if you
I
run
mean, you can enable it on any Win32 game.
Absolutely, but you might not notice a difference. It might be like upping the power state on an AMD Ryzen.
Well, yeah, there are plenty of questions. There have been testing was done like kind of when the creators update first went out to the early ring sub users.
Yeah.
And a lot of there were some people that showed like literally no differences between enabling it and disabling it. And I think the more recent data I'm seeing is that it's getting a little bit better. And the kind of summation that I've seen thus far, again, not my own testing, can't verify, is that minimum frame rates appear to be going up while average frame rates appear to be staying the same.
Staying the same.
Which would kind of jive with the context switching kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And I put in some questions to Microsoft, and I'm hoping that they actually answer me. But it's like I would love to talk with somebody from a technical standpoint about what is this actually doing?
Yeah.
Right. How does it recognize what threads it is? Is there a whitelist, blacklist thing? Is it simply like, oh, if you're playing a game, we're going to pick the processes that are most active then, and kind of group those as you want to keep these active or higher priority.
Do I need to change the name of my executables again?
Right. You can see if that's the case. Because I mean, the way you enable it in any app is you do the, what is it, Windows G, I guess, and it brings up the menu, and you can put it in a game mode like while you're in the game. And so and I think there is a setting if you go into the main settings and you can enable it globally. I think you can. And so I would like to talk about what the differences are there. And again, maybe we've got some upcoming GPU testing to do. Maybe kind of tack on some creators update for that testing as well. And there's other stuff in creators update. There's the ink support, right?
Yep.
I don't know what else. Anything else interesting?
Streaming stuff.
Oh yeah, you can stream through the game mode, the game bar stuff now.
They changed your default command prompt to what's a who's it?
I mean,
PowerShell.
what do you mean by your defeat?
Yeah.
You
What
can
do you
still
mean
get
by your default
back or
command
just launch
prompt?
it from within PowerShell?
It's default in two places. Your context menu one is changed,
Yeah.
and you have to like tweak registry to change it back. And then there's an option in the settings to if you right click the start button and you get the command prompt thing, that changed too.
So it just goes to PowerShell?
Yeah.
Huh.
You know what rocks about PowerShell?
I mean, it says it's PowerShell.
It's blue.
Instead of saying command prompt here.
Great.
So much
color
nicer
Yeah,
than
but
black.
Windows doesn't have a default thing to change. They changed the menu option in
Yeah,
two
they
places.
changed
They
it
didn't
so that-
remove anything about command prompt.
Sure. Command
Oh
prompt is still
no,
there.
Microsoft never removes anything. They just hide it.
Well,
You dig
speaking of
around in the
remove,
registry,
they
you'll get it back.
removed Solitaire and Minesweeper or replaced them with,
Okay, I
with
take it back, you're right.
ad-supported versions that you have to pay for the un-ad-supported version.
Mother.
And Texas Hold'em too.
No.
I didn't even know Texas Hold'em was in there.
It was supposed to be on one of the versions of, I think it was 8.
Uh-oh.
It was originally with Vista Ultimate.
Uh-huh.
That was it. It was the ultimate.
See, it's not warm
Every
now.
time I go
Time to
walking
the
down the
next-
sidewalk.
Uh-oh.
See, now I can't shut it off.
Just throw it.
Then it's just gonna make that sound from across the office.
Yeah, but the mic won't pick it up.
It's actually getting a good beat now. Oh, now it's
No.
not. Okay. That was a mistake. So that's the creators update. It's available for free downloads now, right? For Windows. I think actually this laptop just prompted me for it, and I had to tell it to
I
wait.
mean, they would have.
Yeah, if you don't get the prompt, you can head over and get it through the requested update.
I
Gotcha.
imagine they pushed it on
Something
Patch Tuesday.
Well, they pushed some on Patch Tuesday.
Mm.
Not everybody.
Oh, interesting.
Of course.
They're stepping it up.
Let's see. Time for the news story. The next story. That's time to talk about the Titan XP. What?
Yeah,
Big
you know
X,
me.
little P.
That XP.
So NVIDIA very quietly, as in I got no email from them before this happened. I got there was no press briefing. There was no, hey, do you want a card to test? There was none of that. I got an email from a reader who said, hey, by the way, this is up. And they launched a new Titan X with a lowercase p at the end of it. Mm-hmm. That is the now fully unlocked GP102 GPU.
You know, the best thing about this is they've got Brian Del Rizzo with one of those silver pens, and for every Titan X, they do a BIOS flash to it, and he writes a small p on it.
So what is a fully unlocked GP102? It is the extra 256 CUDA cores that were missing from the 1080 Ti, essentially, right?
12 gigabytes of RAM.
12 gigabytes of RAM, a 10.7 increase in boost shader capacity compared to the Quadro. Oh wait, no, the Quadro P6000 uses the same GPU as opposed to the 1080 Ti. I guess is what we're comparing it to now. And it is an increase from 480 gigabytes per second to 547.7 gigabytes per second, a 14% increase in memory bandwidth, which is impressive. It is available now, only sold through NVIDIA's website. It is $1,200, which is the same price that the previous Titan X Pascal launched at, right? $1,200, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. Which is now the 2016 model listed of the NVIDIA Titan X.
It's got to be the last good version until the Titan 7. You don't want the Titan Vista.
Yeah, you're
So,
going to
I
want
mean,
the Titan 7S.
Yeah.
At that.
You're not
Yeah.
going to want the Titan Vista. So you
It's-
might as well just buy one.
It's really weird, right? I mean, I guess when they launched the 1080 Ti, it was so much faster than the 1080, and then also it was faster than the Titan X Pascal version that had been released, which, by the way, many people call the Titan XP. I never did because I hated it. I still don't like this, but whatever.
I think this is just a tough lesson from NVIDIA, saying you,
I'm
you
still-
call our
I'm
brand,
still
you call
waiting.
our brands what they are, call our products what we name them. You
Or
don't
else.
make up names, make you look like fools.
Yeah, I'm
And
still
stop capitalizing
waiting
all of our
for the.
letters.
Josh, go.
I'm still waiting for the Titan X/2, even though it's going to be really competitive and compatible.
IBM's going to
It'll-
buy it and kill it.
Yeah.
Jeremy, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, and stop spelling our letters all capitalized. Inside joke from
Yeah, apparently. So I don't have I don't have one of these. I've asked. I don't think they're sending them out to anybody. I'm not going to buy one because I know exactly how it's going to perform. If you're a gamer, you can buy a 1080 Ti for $700.
I mean, they're not
Unless
trying.
you've
They're
got
not even
money
trying
to
to
burn.
They're not trying to push us for gamers.
No, they're
so
not.
it's
But
like-
I think there was probably the debate of why even have a Titan. Sorry, it says it's time to move on. I guess. Why even have a Titan if it's not the fastest card in the GeForce line?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
And so
maybe
I
you've
get
got to
it.
test your readiness for 8K.
Maybe you do. And if you wanted to do that,
Why does it distort?
well, because the batteries are low. I don't
Yeah.
say. You could use. Oh no. You could use. You could use the Unigen Superposition GPU stress test benchmark, which does run at 8K. Jeremy, what is this thing? Jeremy?
Jeremy.
The mute button. Apparently, it's very pretty.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet. I think Al was saying he did.
I was toying around with it.
I ran it.
But yeah, nice. I mean, it's only like $1,500. But yeah, so it's got a huge
Hit your mute
variety
button.
of. Hello again, Intel. Huge variety of tests you can do from old basic YouTube resolutions all the way up to 8K 60 frames a second, which good luck finding hardware that will display it, let alone power it.
Right.
But Unity has been a sort of a benchmark, but we haven't had a new one in a long time. We've been-
Correct.
We've had
Really in
Heaven
the
and
future
Valley, but yeah, Valley's been out for a while.
That's been a long time.
Yeah.
And Heaven. Like those were the two. So now they've also got VR testing because, of course, you really need to start doing that. So
Yeah.
they'll tell you about superposition. What was the other one? Not frame drops. What's the other
I
thing
don't
you benchmark for in VR?
Drops and warps and stuff like that.
Warps. That's what I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll do superpositions and warps, which is going to tell you whether you need a bucket when you're doing VR. You're going to be fine. So it's nice to see a brand
I
new
do want to try
benchmark.
that out. I do want to try that out because there have not been any in VR any in VR benchmarks yet.
3D marks?
Did you run
They've
that
got
in
the orange
VR?
room and the blue room and that, but
Yeah, there was the 3D Mark VR version.
Yeah, there's a
I thought it was just a demo. Did it actually give you a score?
They came out with an actual benchmark, I think.
yeah,
I don't think the VR thing gives you a score.
I thought it was just a
think it
demo.
does.
Yeah, I think you just to walk around in the because
the
I didn't.
low tier one because they've got 3 colors now. It was orange, blue, and I can't think what the middle one was. But the basic orange one just lets you
Chartreuse.
look at it, of course.
Mauve.
I will say
Easy
that
to confuse.
burnt sienna.
Leave her alone.
the demo itself was pretty. The one you could interact with was pretty cool to play with.
Yeah, I want to try this. It's just on one of my lists of 300 things to get to, but
Yeah.
very cool. And you did mention it is a free download. There's a free downloadable version.
Yeah, you don't have to pay the $1,500 for the full version.
No, no, no.
$1,500?
It's $20, Jeremy. $1,500 is to license the engine.
No, it's
Oh,
$20
sorry, I was
US,
reading that wrong.
$1,500 Canadian.
Yeah, no, it's $20 for
Oh,
the.
yeah, it's about $20 American right now.
All right, a couple of more things here. We're going to talk to Alan about storage.
Yeah.
Western Digital announced the USB Type-C My Passport SSD. Very cleverly named My Passport SSD.
Well, My Passport's just all their, external USB thingies, right? Portable USB drives.
Okay.
You might notice it's a little longer than usual.
I
Maybe
don't.
they're compensating for something.
No, it's actually, I'm pretty sure. What's that cartoon character that dog?
Muttley.
Muttley.
Every time it's
Muttley.
still Muttley.
All right. Anyway, I'm pretty sure there is a Western Digital Blue SATA M.2 SSD in there.
What makes you think that? Performance numbers?
Yeah,
Because he threw one on the ground really
and the
hard,
shape.
and out popped an M.2 SATA.
That would be a giveaway.
I mean, there are only so many SSDs that Western Digital makes. So
True.
far, there's a blue.
True.
And there's a black.
All true.
Well, the blue is the SATA model, and they make it an M.2 and 2.5 inch, and I don't think that's a 2.5 inch enclosure.
I doubt it.
So it's process of elimination. There you go.
Okay.
That's probably what's in there.
So we're talking $99 for the 256 gig model, according to Best Buy. 512 gig models, $199. 1 terabyte, $399.
Yeah.
Is that in?
I think it's like a few bucks more than just the M.2.
Oh, really?
It doesn't meet
Oh, okay.
I
Ryan's
think so.
law, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
I mean,
Available. They were available as of the 14th, or no, will be available for the 14th of April.
It just seems so odd to have a drive they specifically market as USB 3.1 Gen 2 that's a SATA drive.
look, that's the exact same thing. That's the Samsung T3.
That's M-SATA?
It's a M-SATA.
It's not a Gen 2
850.
drive.
It's got a USB Type-C cable on it.
That doesn't mean it's Gen 2, Alan.
Yeah,
I-
it's still
I know.
5 gigabit.
I know.
Yeah. If they label this,
They specifically label this as Gen 2.
Okay, that just means the chip speaks Gen 2.
Yes, but why would you put a chip that speaks Gen 2 in there for more money if
with the SATA thing on the other
Yeah.
end of it? Yeah,
confusing?
Well, yeah,
I could
I
see
know.
why they would do it
Marketing.
because they can have that checkbox, but
Yeah,
they don't list speeds anywhere, so I'm intrigued.
it looks okay.
I mean, it looks cool.
Yeah.
Oh, they do speeds up to 515 megabytes a second. So,
That's SATA.
yeah.
Well, there you go. Now we have our answer. But we have another SSD as well. AData announces the XPG SX7000.
Yeah, this is going
Line.
to be Silicon Motion 2260 controller.
Okay. Have we tested one of those before?
Probably Micron Flash. We haven't tested this specific drive, but we tested
No,
similar,
no, that controller we
like
have.
that controller, similar kind of
NVMe drive, okay.
configurations. Other. Realize this is the 7000 series is sort of like the Evo to the SX8000, of which there's another model that's higher up than this from ADATA.
Okay.
Is my point.
The SX8000.
right?
Okay, I got
There's an SX8000.
All right.
That's sort of like their Pro. This is sort of like their Evo. Same kind of deal. The controller's the same, except this uses TLC flash with SLC caching,
Okay.
whereas the 8000 was like straight MLC. It's the same exact kind of
Gotcha.
thing, right? So
So let me
But
ask
it's
you
not
this.
SATA
Alan.
Express.
So there was some debate about like warranties and like this comes with a 5-year warranty, whereas a Samsung part, that's the equivalent part, which is like the 960 Evo, right? Only comes with a 3-year warranty.
Right.
So there is that, right? But realize that even if the prices were matched identically, or cost per gig was identical, the Silicon Motion 2260 performance compared to a 960 Evo is still, I mean, they're getting closer, but it's still not a direct comparison.
Okay.
Like the 960 Evo really just like dominates everything right now. So
How about the Phison controllers compared?
it's also similar. Like basically there's Samsung and then there's all the other guys. And it's not necessarily the controller's fault as much as it is Samsung 3D VNAND just is way better at performance than all of the
Okay.
first iterations of the other companies trying to come out with their version of 3D, whatever. Especially if this one uses Micron's 3D TLC is not the fastest. Like they went for more capacity per die on their first round than they went for, performance. Whereas Samsung's, the way that they're designing and building their flash, the performance is just amazing for what it is, right? And that's given them the lead on quite a while. For quite a while so far.
And it continues.
One other question.
Yes.
Yeah.
One other.
Yes.
Is it just me, or is AData really starting to come out with a lot of solid state products in a pretty short period of time?
I mean, they've been like this for a while. I will say that my bigger concern with them is, in the past, they've come out with a lot of products, and then it was hard to actually find them a few months later. There have been times where I went to price check stuff, and couldn't even find, half of the capacities of their lineup of something on Amazon, for example. So I hope that gets better. I imagine it would, with their cadence increasing like this, and then moving into what would be a much more popular product like this, M.2 product.
Yeah. Are they 10 cents a gig?
No.
Moving on.
Crap.
It's time for our hardware software picks of the week. Up first is me, and I'm going with the Ryzen 5 1600. This is $219. There's only 8 left in stock on Amazon, guys. And you pair this with a $110 motherboard like the one I used, which was the MSI B350 Tomahawk board. And $120 for 16 gigs of 3200 memory, 2933 memory. And you have a killer 6-core, 12-thread system up and running. And this also comes with the Wraith Spire cooler, which I was pretty impressed with as well. I just realized I didn't put any commentary on that in the review, and I should have, because the cooler actually was surprisingly good. The 1600 versus the 1600X, you're going to pay $30 or $40 more for the X version, and the only difference is clock speed, and you can just overclock this a little bit and you'll be fine, or not, and I still think you'll be fine in terms of all of the performance metrics that we have looked at. And I think what I'm going to do personally is probably use an 1800X that I have here and build myself a Ryzen 7 system and just replace my current rig with
Just
that
use it.
going forward. And just I can't imagine a scenario where I would be disappointed, but let's just find out.
Yeah.
Do all the crap I do on a daily basis on it, and I'm sure it'll be great. But for significantly less amount of money, the Ryzen 5 1600 is less than half the price of that 1800X, and makes a very compelling case for a consumer looking to build either a PC that does gaming or productivity or work or both or all. That's my pick. So that's me, Jeremy. I believe you.
I was going to contradict you on the RAM price, although apparently this deal is incredibly popular, because when I posted it earlier, it was $80. It's now $90 with one left. But 8 gigs of DDR4 3200 for currently $90.
Well, that's 8 gigs. I was going 16 gigs.
Well, and you can double it once they've got stock back in. But if you're going for a lower end system, and this is what I put it in, was our sort of mid range. You've still got 2 slots to upgrade later on when you've got $90 back in your pocket.
Yep.
But DDR4 at high frequencies is not necessarily as expensive as you might expect.
Interesting. So if we go down to 2600,
the 32 gig one's going to be a bit more expensive.
Yeah.
Let me throw a link at you.
Oh, don't throw
and
anything.
maybe think about this one, because a buddy of mine
a buddy
did this.
Wink, wink.
And apparently this is just rebranded G.Skill X memory. It's in the
I can't see
Slack.
that on this computer, but I'll believe you.
And I put it in IRC.
Oh, I still can't see it on this computer, but that's fine. All right, so $120 for 16 gigs of 3200 memory. EVGA
And
branded.
I
again,
know
through
that
DIMM,
for
so you can
fact
upgrade.
it works with an AMD 1700 at 3200 megs.
You know for a
got
fact it does, or you do not know?
It does.
There you go. And I think
But
that's
did
something
you run
worth,
it on this motherboard?
Well, maybe not that mother, but the Tai Chi.
There you go.
I will say that obviously prices are going to vary based on like Newegg, Amazon, all these different types of things. But I would pay particular attention to, if you don't want to be the first one to try it, find somebody who has tried memory like this on a Ryzen platform and can kind of verify that it works, because they're, especially as you get into higher speeds, at least initially, especially with the Ryzen 7s, there were some hit or miss places where memory did and did not work. But if Josh says his friend tested this out and it works fine,
It is my friend. It's a guy down in Dallas. It's not me.
Wink,
I'm too
wink,
cheap.
nudge, nudge. Say no more. Say no more.
But that's at Micro Center, and it's EVGA memory. Interesting. I
who would've
honestly
thought?
didn't even know they did this.
At Micro Center. I
At
think
Micro
that's
Center.
the only place that sells it.
Gotcha. Speaking of Josh, which I wasn't, but now I am.
Okay.
What's your pick?
I don't know. I forgot. Let's see here. It's a motherboard. Okay, it's the MSI X370 SLI Plus. It's one of the less expensive, not BioStar X370. So if you want to run with a Ryzen 5, this is a nice price point. It's $20
$139.
less than the Asus Prime. It has similar features, good build quality, decent power phases, and all that other fun stuff. Good audio, everything you kind of need. I mean, it's the basic X370 board. I think it's got a single M.2, and that's
I think
fine.
they all do, yeah.
Well, I mean, there are others that have double M.2s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I think the Crosshair.
Does that, Ken? Does the Crosshair have multiple M.2?
I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway,
We've only got two of
Can?
there
them.
are
I don't
others
know if
that
that one
have
does.
multiple M.2. But if you're gonna go low price and you want
Wait,
potential SLI, what?
Does this motherboard have HDMI? Oh, right, because it's an AM4. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's
So
like, why
that
does
means
this have
that you
video
could put a
output?
Bristol Ridge in there.
Got it.
Fun.
Indeed.
Anyway,
$139 is not bad. Yeah.
no.
And you can use, again, Ryzen 7 or Ryzen 5 with motherboard purchase like that. So, and it says right here, supports DDR4 3200 plus memory.
And they just released the Agisa 1.04 or 10.0.0.4 or whatever that how they call it.
1004.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that has the better latencies and support for more memory speeds.
Fantastic. All right, who's up next? Alan,
Me.
what do you got?
A Commodore 64 game.
Oh, yeah.
That was made in 2013. Don't close your eyes and fall asleep on me. All right. So, anybody who used to play a bunch of Commodore 64 games, if you did, you probably played a game called Bruce Lee, which is one of the funner ones.
That's not a word.
More funner.
Yeah.
I can't show this webpage.
so-
Why not?
Words beginning with
I didn't.
F.
I didn't
yes.
want to crap a bunch of links into the thing. But so there was a guy named Bruno Marcos who makes like kind of, newer versions of games, but not on the same platform.
Mm-hmm.
Like so, this guy made Bruce Lee 2 on, it was a Windows game. It was like a port of the Commodore
of course.
thing. Well, the problem was he added a bunch of features to the game that wouldn't fit into the memory of the Commodore.
Okay.
Right. So he just he kind of ported it.
He made a better game. Got
made
it.
a better game, right? But then somebody else took on the challenge and ported his port back to the Commodore, fully featured. So basically, the guy made added features to things like that the original authors decided to not do because obviously there's just limitations in how the platform can only handle so much. You're talking about a Commodore 64 here,
Right.
so
Only handle so much Bruce Lee.
yeah, basically. Well, there's some pretty funny additions in here. It was the game, you're Bruce Lee, and then there was there's two characters you're up against, and every time you go to another screen, the same two characters show up, right? This guy added more characters to the game. He actually added Chuck Norris. And the dude has in very, very 8-bitty pixely animation, very crude animation, but has Chuck Norris's signature kicks. And stuff.
Is he wearing jeans?
He's wearing he just got no shirt on. He's
Jeans
got the
and
white
boots?
pants.
Okay. All right.
The typical Chuck Norris kind
He
of.
kicked
No,
so hard your
typical
commie
Chuck
crashes.
Norris to me is Texas Ranger
Well,
So he's wearing jeans
yeah,
and
yeah,
cowboy
yeah.
boots.
Throwing
Stanley.
slacks.
But
Yeah.
so there's I
Tight
put,
jeans
to
and
fly.
I put a
cowboy
video
boots.
link in the show notes, and there's a long play where a guy basically plays through the entire version of the new one. So if you've played the old one and you don't want to mess around with an emulator or whatever, you just want to watch someone else play through it. Like I laughed out loud when he got to a screen and Chuck Norris showed up instead of the other two characters that usually show up.
There's a
I
white
just thought it was
paper on the
hilarious.
making of Bruce Lee 2 as well.
Yeah, that's the guy that ported it.
Oh, okay.
It's like describing his effort, and then it's
This kind of reminds me of that competition, the 64K 3D applications,
yeah. How
where
big of
people
a
do amazing things.
how big of a
and
demo? It was like game demo makers were
Yeah.
like just making amazing, graphical experiences and demos to just fit into this tiny amount of memory.
Just goes to show everyone, if you need to throw more metal at it, you're a bad programmer.
Yeah,
true.
I was just shocked that like
No one should ever need more than.
I heard about this
128K
when
memory.
the guy did it when the guy did the Windows version, and then I basically just forgot about it. And it turned out like less than a year later or something, this other guy had ported it back to C64. That just kills me.
Now, how do you get it on a 5.25-inch floppy to put in your C64 or
There's-
tape?
They
You
got
punch
images. They have the images.
But how do you
What do you mean?
get the image from your Windows PC onto said floppy?
Oh, I forget exactly what. There's a person that makes an interface that you can actually
You etch it with a pen.
Yeah.
No, you punch it.
The
I
killer
guess you
is-
could write it
patterns.
tape.
Punch.
the real kicker is that the 1541 floppy drive on Commodore had the same CPU as the Commodore.
Yes, I remember
That
that.
seems excessive
It was
and
necessary.
expensive.
The same 1 megahertz CPU was required to drive the floppy drive. Yeah.
Distributed computing.
Yeah, that's what it was. It's SLI. All right, that's it for the show, everybody, tonight. Thank you for joining us. PCPro.com/podcast. That's where you can go find our show notes, links to all the stories we talked about, the picks we had here at the end, MP3 files, RSS links to subscribe, video files, YouTube links, all that stuff. The Patreon is listed there. That is a spot to go to find all of the stuff that you need. So we'll be back next week with another episode, and thank you guys for hanging out. I'm Ryan Schrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Alan Malentano.
Good night.
What's the 8-bit guy? I've been watching a lot of his
Yeah, he
videos
goes
recently.
through. He's pretty cool to watch.
Yeah.
I liked watching the videos of him when he was describing like how did they do, multiple like 16 colors in the same memory
Yeah.
space that they did. Can
Yeah.
only do 4 before. And, yeah,
I was-
There
I'm
is
glad.
a,
I'm glad there are people that are significantly smarter than me out there doing shit.
Yeah.
There's some sort of hydrogen peroxide plus ultraviolet
Retrobrite.
retrobrite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes yellow to
see that,
electronics white again.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's essentially
make a-
hydrogen peroxide and sitting it in the sun,
Yep.
wrapped in like saran wrap.
So it doesn't evaporate off. And the longer you sit in the sun, like for a day, 2, 3 days, like
Interesting.
you unwrap it and it's like white again. I
Interesting.
think that's pretty awesome.
He has a lot of videos where he just like takes decrepit like C64s and stuff and restores them.
What's hilarious is I had a C64 that was new, and like it was pretty brown.
I've been
I just
sitting on a
thought-
store shelf for a while.
I just thought that was the color of the Commodore 64, and then I saw like there were people showing pictures of like, hey, we retrobrited the C64, and it was like such a light color compared to what I remember the Commodore being.
Well,
And it wasn't like a Commodore that had been beat in the sun like a bunch either. It was like, sitting in a dark place on a shelf under a television, in my apartment in New York when I was like 9 or something.
yeah, but the 64 did have kind of a brown tint.
It did.
The 128 was the white one.
Yes. The 128.
Yeah.
Also in RetroTech, I was telling Alan about this, but the other day I watched a YouTube recommended video explaining why the twist exists in floppy drive cables. It's like, I never knew that.
Yeah, A and B.
Remember
Yeah.
that? There was like a few.
Yep.
There was like a few
Yeah.
pins that
In the middle-
flipped
in
It's,
the
over.
middle
it's
of the
cable
ribbon.
select
Yeah.
between slave and master, between A and B.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, Cable Select.
Cable
Yeah,
Select.
I knew
That was
about
a thing.
Cable Select, but I just didn't know that
back in the days
specific
of Masters
application.
and
of it.
Slaves.
It's just use a jumper, man. It's fine.
Apparently, they didn't want to use jumpers with floppy drives.
For the longest time, I used a Sound Blaster 32 as the IDE interface to a CD burner
Oh yeah,
Faster.
sure.
because
It's a better SCSI interface.
it wasn't SCSI. It's that it didn't do DMA. It did
Oh.
PIO mode, so it used more CPU, but you wouldn't like underrun your buffer on your CD burn for the computer that could
You
barely.
didn't have a plethora of drink coasters.
God, that
Basically,
is
yeah,
something
actually worked.
I
I bet you were
I
using
do
the
not
Plextor
miss in the
burner
least.
too, weren't you?
Burning optical media,
Yeah, that
especially
too.
back in like that period. God, that
I
was
went
just
through.
awful.
So I had like my box of HD floppies,
Yeah.
3.5-inch floppies back in the day, and then when zip drives came out, I ported everything over. Like zip disk number 1 in the collection was all of the floppies, right?
Yeah.
And I was like so amazed, right? And then when CD burners, the first CD I burned was all I had to buy a newer hard drive, so I had a big enough hard drive that was one full burn
Case
worth
the
of stuff
copy.
would fit on the hard drive, and I imported my, 3 zip disks worth of stuff or whatever,
Yeah.
collection of stuff.
Wait, so you actually were able to read them?
Yeah, I could still read them. Yeah, well, I
started
had like a
clicking
couple of
yet.
copies of each one because there was like all the important stuff, So CD number 1 in the collection had, the first half of that CD was all of the stuff from the 3 zip disks and like some other garbage that I downloaded at the time or whatever, like a Seventh Guest or something, some Windows 95 game or
Seventh
some crap.
Guest.
Yeah, Seventh Guest or Schism or.
All right, where to go after the CDs? We can trace this back
And
to.
then that went to DVD
Burner
number 1.
3.
Yeah.
And then all of that went to, it's sitting on my array in like the old CDs folder, number 1. So it's literal, like it's all there. Like I
Old
have,
CDs
I have
number
like
1.
the game Castle sitting in like the CD number 1 folder. Like Castle, like the 40 character across, like.
Wasn't there something earlier today where he questioned why we thought he would have saved something?
It's when we were looking for a PC Mark key the other
Yeah,
day.
we were
Yeah.
looking for a key.
Like, where's our
key
PC Mark
for
key?
PC Mark? He's like, I don't know. Why would I? Is like,
Why would I keep that?
Why would I keep that? And I'm like,
Then sure enough, it was in the place. It was in a text file in the place that I had put it on the array.
you didn't. You
was
never.
like, oh.
You never.
Oh,
move
yeah.
You never
anything.
delete anything.
Yeah, well,
You just shuffle it around.
yeah, that's true.
I still have some of my original Voodoo graphics screensavers
Wow.
on my drive.
But see, the reason I
You
migrated
should
all that
spin up
stuff,
a VM just so you can run those.
and we had a recommendation for that IDE to SATA adapter, right, to get to your old stuff.
Yes.
My high school best friend from high school just today was asking me, "Hey, I got a coworker. They got some zip disks. Like, what do they do? Like, we have the parallel.
Fucking pray.
She has the parallel. She has the parallel port.
The discs are fine. It's the reader.
Well, yeah, the drive,
click,
the head would go bad. And then,
But good luck finding a good zip disk reader.
well, no, but she has a
Yeah,
zip disk
good
reader,
luck
but
with that.
it's the parallel version. And it's like, where do you plug in a printer port, like an old school printer port today, And
Surely someone makes an adapter.
well, he's like looking at Amazon
USB
for
to
the adapter.
LPT.
But that's the thing, like, what are the chances of like Windows 10 seeing like a parallel port via USB?
Windows
zip
10
disk
can
drive?
still see serial ports.
Well,
Yeah.
I
And
know,
it uses
I
them
know.
quite often.
But you have to realize the parallel port zip disk thing was like a hack in itself. Making first of all, bidirectional communication on printer ports always sucked in the first place.
Still does.
And then that's why it's just not even a thing anymore. But I was basically just telling them, look, just get the like somebody on eBay is selling one for $50.
Yeah,
like
hopefully
USB
it
version of the
works.
zip drive. Yeah. But so it's for reasons like that every time there's a new, better storage format, thank God that's kind of over now with just put it all on hard disks, right? But I mean, if tomorrow something came out that was this amazing, hard disk thing that you could just buy a 100 terabyte hard drive, like,
You can
for
buy
cheap,
new.
I would move my entire thing over to it.
You can buy a
but I would
new
have couple.
USB zip disk drive on Amazon. It's $168,
Yeah.
but it's new and primable.
Oh, that's cool.
Same day.
I don't think same day.
Born.
I mean,
did Windows 10 get its IRDA support back in on an update?
Refresh my memory. What's?
IRDA?
I honestly don't know.
Erda.
ERDA, yeah.
Oh, I know what you're
Infrared.
talking about. I didn't know they dropped it.
Yeah, that's a common thing that comes up. It's like, I can't get my computer to sync up with my RDA port on Windows 10 after it upgraded.
Well,
Like, well,
Just quit. Just quit.
Now's
Stop.
time- yeah,
Stop. Stop, please.
no, like I have computers. They all use IRDA.
yeah.
Keep a legacy machine around for that.
I can't sync my contacts to my Timex watch. The one that flashes the screen that you point the watch at it.
To my Trio 1. My Zaire.
My Palm Pilot, my Palm 3C won't sync anymore with Active Sync or whatever the heck that sync thing was.
It's like pointing two remote controls at each other so they can
Pretty
learn
much.
programming.
You know, a reliable data communication
What
protocol.
baud rate is that? 4, probably. It's probably 4
TCP/IP
The
baud.
watch
IR,
thing
it
was
worked
like
beautifully.
4. It would
can
give you a
count the
seizure while you
baud.
were looking at the screen, like trying to sync your watch to it, because it would literally like flicker a box on the screen.
Yep.
Nice.
Wait, would that work with LCDs?
Yeah,
If they're fast enough.
yeah. It's just going light dark. Yeah.
Yeah.
It might work better on LCDs actually.
Better contrast.
Yeah.
Quick note: I just tweeted out that Josh and I will be
In England, in the
Arm in
springtime,
England.
Mario to England.
with our love close to the edit or edge.
we'll be in
Or metal.
London.
Jeremy, do you recognize that song?
Yes. I'm not going to sing it for you though.
Are you
Because I
sure you want to go to
barely
London
remember
with
the
Do you know the
Josh?
group? Do you know the group? Come on, say their name.
It's-
Say the name.
No.
Oh, let's dig it.
Wow,
Art of
way
Noise.
deep in.
Art of
yeah.
Noise.
What about him?
God, that was a long time ago.
To be in England in the summertime with my love close to the edge.
There's-
Then there was a little girl with a chainsaw hacking apart a piano. It was great.
My
As
favorite.
you do.
Back when
Yeah.
music videos were videos.
Yeah.
And MTV.
Oh, I
actually
haven't
played
thought
music.
about Art of Noise in a long time.
My favorite Art of Noise is the Peter Gunn remix.
That's a good one. The Max Headroom one is good. The Tom Jones Kiss song. Fantastic.
The thing is, the Peter Gunn one, there's this obscure version of it that's only on one album that's like featuring somebody else.
Oh, is that the one that goes on for like half an hour?
No, it's not. It's not that crazy, but it's like, it's much more modern-ish sounding, at least back then
You know,
when it
if
came
you
out.
replay some of their stuff and compare it to
Well, it'll
what's
stand up.
now,
Yeah,
it's still
it totally stands up.
yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
like bloody XTC. Play some of their old stuff. It'll still stand up, no problem.
You guys done?
What?
Wait.
Anyway, I sent out a tweet saying
Orbital?
that Josh.
Orbital.
Yeah. Yeah, Busy Child. Isn't that them?
Yeah.
I think that was them.
No.
Wait, what was that?
Talking Heads, wasn't
I
it?
have some more. No. Oh, that
what?
was Prodigy.
No.
That was Prodigy, wasn't it?
Was it?
Yeah. Ryan just left. I'm gonna have to go back through my collection. So I'm making a note to myself. Orbital
Sorry,
and
we're
Prodigy.
going
I'm gonna
back
have to
too
see.
far for the
I'm gonna have to
young
see what
gingers.
albums I have.
Oh, jeez.
I've got one Orbital. It was well, they did the Saint soundtrack,
They
yeah.
did
and they had the
some of
Satan
it.
song.
Yes.
It's
Go back
better
and tell your mother.
when you see your mom. Be sure to tell her Satan, 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 Satan.
They actually have
Oh,
they have
man.
a live version of that on Wonky that came out 5 years ago now.
Oh, good on them.
They're still playing it.
Josh, what was that demo? Like I'd come across the home video somebody had made of the kids sitting in the room, like with all the computers set up, and the guy was actually making that like insane demo from like the 80s. That demo scene, freaking like awesome demo soundtrack or whatever. I can't remember the name
Yeah,
of the soundtrack
I
now.
don't know.
That just tripped me the heck up to find a video of the guys making the thing.
Bye, Ryan.
Ryan's just leaving.
Have a good night.
Well, this is just awkward now.
No, actually, it's more familiar. I'll just move over to that seat. Be,
Harsh.
So what was he going to say about going to London? And
Yeah.
he
What do you
tweeted
think
something?
he
what
was
were you
going to
about
say,
going
Josh?
London? Josh is asking about.
done?
Josh is asking about
Yeah,
London.
we're done.
We're done. You can
just
come
says
back
He
now.
says he's
We can find out next week. It's fine.
find out next week. Same Bat podcast.
All right.
You know
with
what,
that-
Ryan? One
and
day
with that, I
you're
think
gonna
we're
be
done.
you're gonna be sitting on a podcast going, I remember back when that Ryzen 5 came out.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I was on a vacation and I had to bring a test bed with me and test that stupid thing.
Oh,
Sucked
Remember,
up all my
it's better
free
to
time.
regret something you have done than something you
something you
haven't.
In his old age.
Alan, I feel stupid.
What?
Thank you, Rantor. It was the Crystal Method.
Oh,
You
it's Crystal
Oh,
Method.
yeah.
get this out. And I was like, wait, that project doesn't sound right.
That was Crystal Method. Oh shit, I'm gonna have to play some old music tomorrow morning.
Jeez.
All right. I gotta go, guys.
All right.
And yet again,
guys.
a business doing pleasure
It's
with you
Crystal
all.
Method, not Crystal Meth.
Uh,
Back
Y'all
in
have a
my
good
day,
one.
we listened to the Crystal Meth.
we didn't smoke it.
We didn't
Cares
smoke
these
it.
days.
Now you're gonna start talking about Cocteau twins, and it's all gonna go downhill.
Yeah. Went into a Depeche Mode.
Damn Scottish crazy singers.
crap.
Okay.
All right, we got.
All right, guys.
Y'all have a good one.